Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Fantasy Fellow Show. I am your host, the Fellow KGB. You can follow me on Twitter at the Fellow KGB. And today it is Friday at 6 o'clock in the evening. We're going to be looking over the Sunday afternoon games. We'll take a look at the Sunday night game and the Monday night game as well. So we're just using my start-sit charts on the fantasyfellowship.com. We're going to be looking at the Giants and the Rams here. And a couple of things off the bat, the over-under for this game is going to be at 48 points. The Rams are favored by 13. So this is something, these are certain things that I like to look at in the game to really see how things are going to go. So it looks like the Rams are favored by almost 2 touchdowns in this one. And then if you scroll down a little bit here, we can see the fantasy points allowed to the quarterback, the running backs, the receivers, and the tight ends. So the Giants, as a defense, are allowing 17.7 quarterback points per game. And the Rams are allowing 20.4. So the Rams are actually a defense to target against the passing game. So that's kind of interesting for Daniel Jones. For the running backs here, the Giants allow 28.7 fantasy PPR points to the running backs. That's the 9th most in the league. So the Giants here are going to be a team that we target a lot for running backs, and I think receivers as well. And then the Rams, you see here, they're not so good themselves with 26.7 PPR points per game. From the receiver standpoint, you're looking at the Giants averaging or allowing 39.6 PPR points. That's 13th most in the league. Rams kind of the same, about 34.7. And then against the tight end, the Giants are actually pretty solid. They're only allowing 7.4. That's the 27th most in the league. So the Giants somehow are covering up tight ends pretty good. But the Rams are struggling against tight ends. So they're allowing 15.3. That's the 10th most in the league. So now that we kind of know some of this stuff, it looks like we're going to want to be targeting quite a bit of players in this game. So from the start-sit charts here, I have Daniel Jones as a quarterback 2 in Superflex leagues. I don't think we're using him for one quarterback leagues. He might not even be rosterable in one quarterback leagues, but for Superflex, I think that's where he gets his play. And then who's he going to throw the ball to? As we see, the Rams are allowing the 11th most points to quarterbacks with 4-point passing touchdowns. So this is going to make Golden Tate useful and Darius Slayton. And then I do have a question mark next to Evan Ingram because I think Evan Ingram, as we see, the Rams allow 15.3 points per game to the tight end. So Evan Ingram is going to be an interesting play as well. So with that, I want to look at the Week 3 opportunity report here. And we're just going to see how the Giants moved the ball last week and how the snap counts shook out. But as we get to this is alphabetical, so almost there. New York Giants. Okay, so last weekend, on 32 passing attempts for Daniel Jones, he targeted Darius Slayton 7 times. He targeted Golden Tate 7 times. So these guys are going to be the leading, target players here. It looks like Evan Ingram, 5 targets, only 3 catches and 22 yards. So that's a little frustrating. Golden Tate ended up with 5 for 36 and Slayton 3 for 53. So that's not a bad game from Slayton for a floor. If that's a PPR play, that's 8.3 points. That could be something that we start to see where he gets a floor of 7 to 8 points. So I'm liking Darius Slayton here. And then again with Golden Tate, he had 8.6 PPR points. So I think both these guys, Slayton and Golden Tate, both have nice floors this weekend, and I think they can be in your lineups as a wide receiver 3 or flex. But Evan Ingram is a really interesting guy. He only had 5 targets last weekend, but as we mentioned, the Rams are not that great against the tight end. They're allowing 15.3 fantasy points per game. So I think if you drafted Evan Ingram, you have to kind of keep going with it until he either gets injured or it just comes to a point where we can't do it anymore. But in this game where the Rams are favored by 13, the Giants are going to have to continue to pass the ball to keep up with the Rams offense in this one. So I think Evan Ingram's going to get one more go for me as a tight end one this weekend, but he's got to do something big against this one. Otherwise, he might even be droppable in a little bit, but hopefully Evan Ingram can prove us wrong. And then on the bench here, I have Wayne Gallman, Devonta Freeman, Dion Lewis, and Caden Smith. I have Caden Smith on the list here. He is the number 2 tight end in New York, just because Evan Ingram's shown that he's gotten injury prone before. So 44 snaps last weekend for Ingram, and Caden Smith is the clear number 2 receiving guy, and he's getting a couple targets per game. So I'm keeping an eye on Caden Smith. The running back snap count was just a mess. Dion Lewis with 20, Wayne Gallman 18, Devonta Freeman 15. I'm assuming we're going to see Devonta Freeman be the leading snap running back here for the second game with the Giants. He had 5 carries for 10 yards. He actually led the team in carries. So I think you're going to see Devonta Freeman get a little bit more run, but again, I'm not really trusting any of the running backs quite yet. The Rams are a pretty good run defense, but they are allowing 26.7 PPR points to the running back. So I'm a little bit nervous for the for the Giants on offense, but I think I feel okay with these guys as low end, wide receiver threes, and then hopefully Evan Ingram can get it going against the Rams defense. But on the Rams side of the ball, Jared Goff is going to be a quarterback one, I think, this week. We did see that the Giants are allowing 17.7 fantasy points per game to the position, but Jared Goff has been playing very well the last 2 weekends, and he's dealing with, Robert Woods and Cooper Kupp. They've basically been just playing at, low-end wide receiver 1 or wide receiver 2 level. So he's got 2 really great targets here. Tyler Higbee had the good game a couple weekends ago. So I think we're starting, of course you're starting Robert Woods, Cooper Kupp, and then I think you got to keep rolling out with Tyler Higbee, and hopefully he can take advantage of the Giants defense. But then on the ground, they got Darrell Henderson here, who all of a sudden is looking like a pretty good, I don't know if you were able to get him off the waiver wire or a really late draft pick, but he had 20 rushing attempts last weekend, 114 yards and 1 touchdown. He also got 3 targets. He only caught one of those for 6 yards, but he's shown that he's a capable receiving threat out of the backfield. So that was 20 carries and 3 targets. So 23 attempts to move the ball for Darrell Henderson. I know Malcolm Brown, he's still probably going to be the short yardage back, but they gave Darrell Henderson some touches inside the 10-yard line last weekend. So I'm not really sure if that's something that's going to be changing going forward, but I really like Darrell Henderson this weekend. If we look at the Giants against the running back, again, they're one of the top 10 teams that allow the most points to the running back in PPR leagues. And again, if we expect the Rams to win by 13 here, that's the Vegas line. I just think Darrell Henderson is going to be a big part of closing out the game in the second half, getting probably another 20-some carries, maybe even more. So I'm a big fan of the Rams being able to move the ball on offense in this one. And I think you could even start the Rams defense in this one. Daniel Jones has shown that he's turnover prone. He gets fumbles, interceptions, and the like. So it's really leaning the Rams here right now. Malcolm Brown, we're not trusting him. We're keeping an eye on Van Jefferson and Josh Reynolds, see if those guys can keep making plays. Gerald Everett, we'll see if he can make some plays. And then Cam Akers has been listed out. And then now that we've pretty much talked about all the players in this game, we're going to go ahead and look at the injury practice reports. So it's a pretty short list for the New York Giants here. It looks like Jabril Peppers is the only one that's been ruled out. They did lose a cornerback, Brandon Williams, here. But the offense, there's nobody on offense that's missing. So everyone's really healthy for the Giants. So that's a good sign there. Besides Saquon and Sterling Shepard, of course. But it looks like the Rams have already ruled out Cam Akers. He's not practicing all week. He's got the rib injury. It looks like Josh Reynolds did not practice on Wednesday, but he's logged 2 full ones. So the offense should be good to go. It looks like Andrew Whitworth, offensive tackle, came back and logged some full practices. So the Rams are pretty healthy here. This looks good for the Rams. Only Cam Akers is going to be out this weekend. So this one, I don't know, man. It's probably going to be a pretty lopsided game. We'll see if Daniel Jones can muster up enough garbage time points. But now we got the cream of the crop on the Sunday afternoon slate. And that's going to be the Patriots at the Chiefs. The over-under for this game is 53 points. The Chiefs are favored by 6.5. So how do we expect this one to roll? Let's take a look first at the points allowed here. So these teams are, both defenses are pretty solid. The Patriots are allowing 17.4 quarterback points, and the Chiefs are allowing 19.1. So they're both middle of the road. But the running back situation here, it's kind of the same thing. The Patriots are allowing about 24 points to the running back, and the Chiefs are allowing about 23. And these are PPR numbers. But the one area where the Chiefs might have an advantage this weekend is right here. The fantasy points allowed to the receiver position. The Patriots are allowing the 7th most points at 41.3 per game versus the Chiefs, who are allowing about 23 points per game. And this is the fewest in the league. So this makes me a little bit nervous for Julian Edelman. And it makes me a little bit more interested in Tyreek Hill. We're going to see what Bill Belichick decides to take away from the Chiefs offense. I don't know if that's going to be Tyreek Hill or Travis Kelce, but we did see last weekend that the Patriots were really successful in locking down Darren Waller. So maybe they do that again. And I don't know, but it's going to be tough to stop, both guys. But if I had to put my money on it, I'm thinking Tyreek Hill might be able to take advantage of this defense as we've seen so far through 3 games here. And then you see the Patriots allowing points to the tight ends. That's the 28th most in the league at 7.1. So this is a very low number against the tight ends. The Chiefs are a little bit more susceptible against the tight end, allowing 14.3 points. That's 13th most. So I don't know. I really don't know if any of these numbers mean anything for us this weekend. But in the start-sit charts, you're going to be starting Cam Newton as a quarterback one. Hopefully, he can find the rushing end zone for you once or twice this weekend, and hopefully hook up with Edelman or some of the running backs here. As far as offensive playmakers for the Patriots, it's going to be hard to trust going forward, but I still think you can throw Julian Edelman out there in PPR leagues, and then it's going to be a mix between Rex Burkhead and James White, I think. As far as PPR running backs, we'll see. Hopefully, James White can come back and play this weekend. I don't know if he was missing practice at all. It looked like he returned. So yeah, he's not on. Well, he wasn't injured before, but I think James White's going to give it a go this weekend, which is just going to really mix up all the running back snaps. You're going to have Burkhead, James White, Sony Michel, and J.J. Taylor competing for snaps. So I'm hoping Rex Burkhead and James White have high enough PPR floors. If the Patriots are favored, or the Chiefs are favored by 6.5, so I think the Patriots are going to have to play keep up with the Chiefs in this one, which means more passing down work for the backs, Burkhead and White. So I'm kind of open to both guys in PPR formats. And then on my bench is going to be N'Keal Harry, Damiere Byrd. Those guys are basically emergency wide receiver 3 flex plays at best. Sony Michel, we don't expect them to be able to establish. I guess if they're going to try to beat the Chiefs, they're going to have to try to run the ball and establish that. So if you like that, Sony Michel maybe is a low-end RB2 or something. And then we're on Damian Harris watch. It looks like I think he was back and practicing this week. Or maybe they activated him. Maybe they can activate him off IR pretty soon, if not next week. So again, with the Patriots, it's pretty simple. You're pretty much you only really want Cam Newton. Everything else is kind of very boom bust. And then on the Chiefs side, the Chiefs have one of the most basic, simple fantasy offenses to navigate here. You're starting Mahomes, you're starting Clyde Edwards, you're starting Tyreek Hill, and you're going to start Travis Kelce. So then the questions come in. With Sammy Watkins and Mecole Hardman. Let's take a look at the practice reports real quick for the Chiefs. Looks like Tyreek Hill, he was on here for something and didn't list it, but he's fine. Otherwise, no other offensive playmakers here, and everyone's practicing. So the Chiefs look really healthy right now, which is good to see. But let's take a look quick at last week's opportunity report against the Ravens. You see Sammy Watkins actually led the team in snaps at 87% share. He saw 8 targets. 7 catches, 62 yards. I mean, as long as Sammy Watkins is getting 8 targets in this offense, I think he's going to be a pretty, steady wide receiver 3 for us. So I like that. And then I'm thinking we're going to see Mecole Hardman. I think they're trying to make sure that he gets more run here. He saw 6 targets compared to Demarcus Robinson's 1. The weird thing is Demarcus Robinson is still getting more snaps than Mecole Hardman, but the gap is closing. We see Demarcus with 55% to Mecole's 39%. And then again, Mecole Hardman, he caught that long touchdown, 4 for 81 and a touchdown. So it's looking like Mecole Hardman, maybe in this game, he's like a boom bust wide receiver 3 flex. If you have Michael Thomas or some other, maybe you had Juju and you got to throw someone out like that. I could see Mecole Hardman coming down with a big play in this one, because if Belichick's focusing on Hill and Kelce, Hardman might be able to win a one-on-one matchup every now and then. And then for now, we're just going to leave Robinson, Darrell Williams, and Darwin Thompson on our bench. Just keep an eye on those guys. But with this point total being so high at 53, I'm really not interested in starting either of the defenses here. Both quarterbacks don't really turn the ball over. So I think it's safe to say just plug in the guys on the Chiefs side. Cam Newton's locked in. Hopefully Julian Edelman can do something. We'll see if these running backs here can do much to help us. But enjoy that game. That's easily the best game of the afternoon slate. And then we got the final afternoon game here, the Buffalo Bills and the Las Vegas Raiders. Buffalo is favored to win by 3 here, and the over-under for this game is 52.5. So a lot of points coming in this one. I don't think the Raiders are very good defensively. If we roll down here and look at the fantasy points allowed to the positions here, the Bills are allowing almost 20 fantasy points to quarterbacks. The Raiders are somewhat sneaky here. They're allowing less than 15 points per game here, but it is Josh Allen, so I think that's going to be a little reversal of the trends there. But on the running backs here, the Bills are allowing 22 points per game to the running backs, and the Raiders are the number one. They're the worst team against the running back in PPR formats. They're allowing 44.5 points per game to the running back position. They played Christian McCaffrey week 1, Alvin Kamara week 2, and then last weekend they basically just let Rex Burkhead do whatever he wanted. So the easy smash plays here is going to be the running backs for the Buffalo Bills. So I have Devin Singletary up here at RB2. So yeah, every running back that's gone against the Raiders defense has been a really good play. So I feel confident And sticking Devin Singletary in there as my RB2, especially in a PPR league. I think Zach Moss is going to play this weekend, but I think he might be best left on the bench. But we'll see how many snaps and opportunities he gets. And then continuing with the fantasy points allowed to the receivers, the Buffalo Bills are allowing 41 points per game to the receivers, which is the 10th most. And the Raiders they've been pretty stingy in the secondary. They're allowing almost 28 points per game to the wide receiver position. And then on tight ends here, the Bills allowing 16.5 points. That's the 8th most in the league. And then the Raiders, continuing a trend here, they're pretty good against the secondary or pretty good against the quarterbacks in the passing game. So only 6.5 points allowed to tight end positions this year. So pretty much everything just gets funneled to the running backs here, whoever is playing the Raiders. So Josh Allen, you're going to keep rolling him out there as your quarterback one. Like we said, we're going to be smashing running backs against the Raiders every week going forward. So Singletary's a 2. I have Stephon Diggs listed as a wide receiver 1 despite the tough matchup, on paper. But Stephon Diggs has a great opportunity to be a wide receiver 1, but he's probably going to be penciled into your wide receiver 2 spot. I think you can start Cole Beasley as a a wide receiver 3 PPR, maybe 10 to 12 points there. And then John Brown, we have to monitor the practice reports here for Buffalo. But it looked like he got a full practice in today. So I think John Brown, he had the calf injury. He missed on Wednesday, limited Thursday, full practice today. So that looks pretty good for John Brown. I think he's going to go. But again, we have to keep an eye on Zach Moss here. He was limited all week with a toe injury. Otherwise, the offense is relatively healthy. The only guy missing practice today was defensive end Mario Addison here. So I think the Bills are going to be fine. Cole Beasley, John Brown, their wide receiver 3 flex plays. You could probably start the Buffalo Bills defense. They haven't been that great the last 2 weekends, to be honest. So that's why I have them listed as startable. You're hoping for a low-scoring, Oakland Raider day. I keep saying Oakland. It's Las Vegas. But then I'm keeping an eye on Gabriel Davis. I want to see how much Zach Moss gets this week. And then the tight ends, Tyler Kroft and Dawson Knox. We saw, I think, 2 touchdowns last weekend from Tyler Kroft, but Dawson Knox was out. So I'm interested in seeing where those tight end points go. On the Raiders side of the ball here, Derek Carr, he's going to be a quarterback 2 in Superflex. Josh Jacobs is a running back 1. We see that the Bills are probably the best. As far as how to attack their defense, they're allowing more points to the receivers and the tight ends than anything. So the running back game might be a little tough, but hopefully Jacobs can find the end zone for us. You're going to be starting Darren Waller. He's probably going to have a really good bounce back game. And then you're starting Hunter Renfrow as a wide receiver 3 flex. Brian Edwards, I believe, is questionable, but it's already been ruled out for Henry Ruggs. So if we just look at the practice reports for the Raiders here, Brian Edwards has already been ruled out, and so has Henry Ruggs. I guess Ruggs is doubtful, so he's probably not going to play, which leaves Darren Waller and Hunter Renfrow as the main passing target. So those guys feel pretty good to me as safe plays. We're going to monitor Nelson Aguilar. We'll see what Devontae Booker and Jalen Richard can do, but pretty simple game here. I would expect the Buffalo Bills offense to keep humming along and doing what it's doing. But the Raiders have played some good football this year, and we'll see if they can hang tough. Again, this is the second game at the new Las Vegas Stadium, so maybe there's some kind of cool energy there where the Raiders pull it off. But that's I don't know. That's pretty much it for that game. And then we got the Sunday night football game here, the Eagles at the 49ers. The over-under for this game is 46, so they're kind of expecting this to be a lower-paced game. And the 49ers are favored to win by a touchdown here at 7 points. A lot of red flags here for Carson Wentz and the Philadelphia Eagles. Let's take a look at their practice report. It's pretty lengthy on the offensive side of the ball. We see J.J. Arcega-Whiteside here. He's listed as doubtful. John Hightower here, rookie receiver, did not practice. Deshaun Jackson's been ruled out. Alshon Jeffrey's been ruled out. And it looks like Miles Sanders had a couple limited days in practice, but he went back to full. So they are really hurt at receiver. I think they're down to just one receiver left, and that's going to be Greg Ward. So you see here, I have him listed as a wide receiver 3 flex. If he's still hanging around your league and you have to find someone to fill in for Michael Thomas or maybe Devontae Adams or something like that, maybe Greg Ward could be the answer for you. But like we said, Deshaun Jackson's out, John Hightower out, Alshon Jeffrey, J.J. Arcega-Whiteside. So who is Carson Wentz going to throw the ball to? It looks like Zach Ertz is going to be easily the leading target man here. Dallas Goedert's out as well, probably for the next 3 or 4 games. Maybe Miles Sanders gets more work. Maybe Boston Scott gets more work. It's going to be really, I don't know. I'm getting really nervous about this Philadelphia offense. I do have Carson Wentz listed as a quarterback 2 in Superflex leagues, but I don't even know if I trust that at the moment right now. It looks like the 49ers are really putting the clamps on the quarterbacks here. They allow 15.5 fantasy points to the quarterback, which is the 27th least, in the league. So this is a tough matchup for Carson Wentz. If I'm being honest, I'm probably really only comfortable starting Miles Sanders, but that's just as an RB2. And then, of course, they're going to be starting Zach Ertz, and then we'll see what Greg Ward can do. He might be a wide receiver 3 flex play. He actually played pretty well last weekend. Let's take a look at his numbers. I think he was the leading target guy. So last weekend we saw him with 11 targets, 8 catches, 72 yards, and the touchdown. So maybe Greg Ward is the one guy here that you can kind of throw out as your wide receiver 3 flex and see what happens. But then again, Zach Ertz, 10 targets and 7 catches. No one else really stood out. But we did see Miles Sanders with 18 rushing attempts and 8 targets. So it's basically the whole offense is going to revolve around Sanders, Zach Ertz, and Greg Ward. On the 49ers side of the ball, Nick Mullins is going to get his second start of the week or the year. He's going to be a quarterback 2 in Superflex leagues. I think the Eagles are not that great against the quarterback. They allow 19 fantasy points per game. So I could see Mullins taking advantage here. Let's take a look. The Niners have a lot of practice reports that we have to look at first. So, they're probably, outside of the Broncos, they're the most dinged up team right now. So Raheem Mostert's been ruled out with his knee injury. Jordan Reed's been placed on IR. Jerick McKinnon's logged full practices. George Kittle's going to be back. And it looks like Jimmy Garoppolo, we already talked about that. He's completely ruled out. So on the 49ers side of things, you're starting Jerick McKinnon. He's the starting running back here. He's a PPR RB2. You're starting Nick Mullins in Superflex. You're starting George Kittle, of course. And then I think Jeff Wilson has, low-end RB2 flex value. He's going to be the goal line back, and he's got a really good opportunity for a touchdown again. Brandon Ayuk, he played really great last weekend. If we look at his numbers real quick, Brandon Ayuk, he logged 73% of the snaps, 3 rushing attempts, 31 yards, and a touchdown. And then you see 8 targets. He led the team in targets last weekend, which is really cool to see for a rookie. 4 catches, 70 yards. So 101 all-purpose yards and a touchdown. So I think Brandon Ayuk is going to be the focal point of the offense. I think I saw that they might even let Deebo Samuel play this weekend. So monitor that report. If you're going to be throwing Deebo out there, just keep in mind he's probably going to be on a pitch count. I don't think he's going to play a full amount of snaps right away. I don't know if did he log any practices? They don't have any practice reports from him. So keep an eye on that. But I think Deebo Samuel is going to be definitely back next weekend. We're not really trusting Kendrick Bourne, Mohamed Sanu, Ross Dwelly, like we said. Raheem Mostert's out. So this one's probably going to be very heavy 49ers here. I expect Nick Mullins to look good. I expect McKinnon and Jeff Wilson to be able to move the ball effectively through the air and the ground. And then George Kittle, he's probably going to have a pretty nice day himself. But interesting Sunday night football game here as the Eagles are looking for their first win of the season. And they could be potentially 0-3-1, which would be hard to swallow at this point of the season. So moving on to Monday Night Football, I think this game is the highest over-under of the week. It's at 56.5, and the Packers are favored to win by 7 points. So that's 1 touchdown there. Let's take a look at the defensive stats here. So there's a lot of green numbers here. Atlanta Falcons are allowing the most quarterback points per game at 33.5. The Packers, kind of middle of the road, but they're allowing about 19 points per game. The Falcons on the running back position here, they're allowing 25 points per game in PPR. The Packers are a target here. They're allowing almost 36 fantasy points per game to the running back position. And then here, the receivers, Atlanta's allowing almost 48 PPR points per game to the wide receivers. The Packers, middle of the road here at 34. The Falcons are allowing a lot of tight end points, so the second worst against the tight end at about 25 points per game. And the Packers are pretty stingy against tight ends, only allowing about 8 points per game. So this is going to kind of set some things up for us as we look around here. So I think you got to start both quarterbacks, Matt Ryan and Aaron Rodgers. These guys are both quarterback 1s. I think Devontae Adams is going to go. I think he put in some practices the last 2 days. If we look here real quick. So he's logged limited practices on Thursday and Friday. We'll see what happens. I think we're going to have to double check tomorrow because I think tomorrow's another padded practice for Green Bay. So we'll see what they do there. But he looks like he's trending to play. So hopefully he does. We did see Alan Lazard's been ruled out probably for the next 4 or 5 weeks. And then as far as tight ends, everything else looks pretty fine. Just Josiah DeGuara is going to be coming back. But the offense is healthy other than Allen Lazard and hopefully Devontae Adams. But on the Atlanta Falcons side of things, you got to start Todd Gurley as your RB2 as long as Todd Gurley's healthy and getting as many touches as he is. He's going to be a fine RB2. The receivers, you're starting Calvin Ridley, Julio Jones, and it looks like we're starting Russell Gage. I just want to check the Atlanta practice reports. I think all three receivers practiced today. So yeah, Russell Gage had the concussion scare last weekend, but he practiced in full today. It looked like Julio Jones put in the limited work today, and Calvin Ridley got some limited work today with an ankle injury. So we're going to keep an eye on this Calvin Ridley ankle thing, but it looks like they're both going to play. So the Falcons are going to be with their full wide receiver group here, Ridley, Jones, and Gage. As long as they're healthy and playing, I'm trying to get them in my lineups. Hayden Hurst, I have him here with a question mark as a tight end 1. Like I said before, the Packers are only allowing 8.3 fantasy points per game to the tight end. So especially if Ridley, Jones, and Gage are all on the field together, I don't know if I have to play Hayden Hurst as my tight end 1. You could see last weekend he only had the 1 or 2 targets for the 1 catch. So he's not a really high volume guy as much as we were hoping for at the moment. So I'm kind of on the fence about Hayden Hurst. But then one guy that I'm really keeping an eye on here for the waiver wire, and I think he might even be worth a pickup this weekend, it's going to be Brian Hill. Because we see that the Packers allow a boatload of fantasy points to the running backs here, almost 36 PPR points per game. That's the 3rd most in the league. Brian Hill, it wouldn't surprise me if Brian Hill popped off for another big play like he did last weekend. So if he's somehow available in your leagues, I think I'd be interested in adding him to the end of my bench. And then Ito Smith is the clear number 3 option here. And then I think Olamide Zaccheaus, he's kind of established himself as the next man up. So if anything happens to Calvin Ridley, Julio Jones, or Russell Gage, it looks like Zaccheaus is going to be the guy that gets the next amount of snaps. So kind of file that name away if Russell Gage has more concussion symptoms, or if Julio Jones gets hurt again, or Calvin Ridley's ankle. So we got to kind of be cognizant of all 3 of those players' injuries, and just know that Olamide Zaccheaus is going to be the next man up. On the Packers side of things, I'm assuming Devontae Adams is going to play. That means Aaron Rodgers is going to be a quarterback 1. But even last weekend without Devontae Adams, we saw Aaron Rodgers play like a quarterback 1. So he's locked in. Like we said, the Falcons are allowing the most fantasy points to the quarterbacks. So I'm super excited to get Rodgers in the lineup this weekend. Super excited to get Aaron Jones in the lineup this weekend. He might be the Packers' number 1 or number 2 receiver this week. With Allen Lazard out, but you're starting Rodgers, Jones, Devontae Adams if he plays, fingers crossed. The tight end, Robert Tonyan, he's had 2 really, really nice games. Let's take a look at Rob Tonyan's numbers real quick. If you're hurt at tight end and you need some help there, I think Rob Tonyan might be a guy that you could probably snag to the end of your bench. As we see here, he missed week 1, but the last 2 weeks, we see 2 catches for 25 yards and a touchdown. And then, of course, on Sunday Night Football last week, 5 catches for 50 yards and the touchdown. So it's nice to see basically just getting more and more work. And now that Allen Lazard is out of the picture for a little while, I could see Aaron Rodgers has openly said how much he likes Robert Tonyan's work ethic, and he thinks he's a pretty good tight end. And as long as he's running the most snaps for tight ends for the Packers, I'm interested in Robert Tonyan as a low-end tight end 1 PPR, kind of what the heck shot there. And then with Marquez Valdez-Scantling, you're hoping for the big play touchdown, but like we said, Allen Lazard is out. Marquez Valdez-Scantling is going to be the 2nd most used wide receiver. So I think he's got, wide receiver 3 flex potential. Hold on. It looks like we got a question in the chat. So it says from Noah, pick 2 or 3 to start: Jerick McKinnon versus Eagles, Justin Jefferson versus the Texans, or Gallup versus the Browns. Wow, this is a really good group of players to pick 2 from. So with McKinnon, I'm assuming this is PPR. So I'll kind of just give you the spectrum. I think McKinnon's the safest play of all 3. Just because he's going to get, opportunity to run the ball and then get, 3 or 4 catches in this one. He scored a touchdown in every game this year. So I think McKinnon is the safest play of the group. And then when it comes to Justin Jefferson versus the Texans, he's a rookie. He just had a really good game last weekend. We'd love to see what he can do this weekend. But it could go, multiple ways. Let me see what I have for the Texans here. I just want to look at the stats that they allow per game. Where are we? The Texans, almost there. So where are the Texans? We'll stop at the Cowboys real quick. So I have Michael Gallup listed as a wide receiver 3. The thing about the Browns is they're allowing 42.2 fantasy points per game to the wide receivers. This is the 6th most in the league. So that's kind of why I like Michael Gallup right now. He had his big explosion game last weekend. And this could be another. I mean, Gallup, all he needs is one play to make your day. So I'm kind of feeling pretty strong about Michael Gallup. And I'm just looking for those Houston Texans. Did I miss those guys? Texans play the Vikings. Where's the Vikings Texans game? Here we go. Okay, so you're asking about Justin Jefferson here. It looks like the Texans they're solid against the receivers so far. They're allowing about 32 fantasy points per game to the receivers. So I'm probably liking. I think if I had to rank them, I would go McKinnon as the safest play. I like the upside of Michael Gallup. I think he's a little bit more trustworthy. He's a third-year receiver. I love what Justin Jefferson can do, but I think just from a trust level, I feel more confident throwing Michael Gallup out there. And then hopefully, I mean, Justin Jefferson, we see him, he's probably going to get more workload going forward. But like I said, we'll see what he can do. And I think just because it's Dak Prescott versus Kirk Cousins, I think I feel more secure locking into Dak and going with Gallup and McKinnon. So I hope that helps. But I guess I was just kind of finishing up my thoughts on the Packer game here. We left off on Marquez Valdes-Scantling. We talked about Allen Lazard not being a go this weekend and probably the next like 3 or 4 games. They're on bye next week. But it looks like they're going to be calling up their 4th receiver, Darius Shepard. So I'm keeping an eye on Darius Shepard. Hey, no problem, Noah. Thanks for hanging out for the question. But yeah, Marquez Valdes-Scantling, all he wants is that one big play. Hopefully they can find more ways to get him the ball. But if Devontae Adams is playing, I think Marquez Valdes-Scantling is going to get some softer coverage, and he could get over the Falcons' top of the defense here. And like we pointed out, the Falcons are allowing almost 48 fantasy points per game to the wide receiver position. So hopefully Rodgers, Devontae, Tanyan, MVS, all these things get clicking. And I don't know. Like I said, this one though is at 56.5 over under. It's the most point total implied in the Vegas line. So I think it's going to be a really fun game to watch. The Falcons are trying to avoid 0-3. Packers looking to keep things moving, going 4-0 into the bye. And this one's in Lambeau, so I'm feeling really good about the Packers here at -7. And then guys to monitor, like we said, Allen Lazard's out probably for a month. Jamal Williams, I really like Jamal Williams as a backup running back. There's a couple leagues where I have Aaron Jones, and I just have Jamal Williams, hanging around at the end of the bench just in case anything happens. So he's a guy that if you want to have an open bench spot, you can plug Jamal Williams in there at the end. I want to see more Jay Sternberger. He had a pretty nice game last weekend. Tyler Urban looks good as a punt returner, kick returner, and kind of this like pseudo running back receiver. And then Darius Shepard. This is going to be the guy that gets if you wanted to add someone because Allen Lazard's out, Darius Shepard's going to be the 3rd receiver on this team for the next month or so. So keep an eye out for him. And that completes the week 4 start sit charts. If you are new to the Fantasy Fellowship, check us out on thefantasyfellowship.com. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. Follow me on Twitter at @thefellowkgb. You can always hit me up with questions there. But yeah, we got a lot to look at here on the website. We got our start sit charts. I have my waiver wire column that I put out every Monday, Tuesday. And then tomorrow, my schedule is going to be hanging out with my friend Jesse, the fellow JGM. Last weekend, we did a player prop podcast on Saturday. And if you're interested in betting on the player props, last weekend we went 7 of 10, which would have been, we try to get over 50%. So last weekend was a pretty good win for us. We both made quite a bit of good returns there. So 7 out of 10 last week on our bets. We're started entering in some of ours. So we're going to talk about these tomorrow and some of the other bets that we like. So check that out if you're interested. And thank you so much for your time. Check out the Fantasy Fellowship, and we'll see you in another video. Thanks. Peace.